and welcome to the Valerie Players 10-Minute Play Festival. This show is presented in Reader's Theater format, as the actors will use their voices to bring their characters to life. The festival is dedicated to storytellers in each of us. You see, telling stories is our greatest human superpower. So remember, when you're telling something about your grandma or your trip to Walmart, you're using your superpower, which makes all of us superheroes. We put together a collection of stories, both funny and thought-provoking, from a group of local superheroes for your entertainment. Tonight we have some of those superheroes in the audience, and I'd like to introduce them. Cindy Pontre, Joe Starker, Margot Wilson, Bill Norklum, Barry Denham, who's in the show, Robert Darling, Carol Jeske, who's directing Act 2, and Jim and Sharon King, who will be representing Phyllis Burton. Phyllis had to go to a memorial service for her sister in Montana, I believe. All right, we will now start the show.
Are you cutting the last two paragraphs on this script?
What last two paragraphs on the
Be able
script?
to vote for your favorite on the ballot?
Oh, yeah, I jumped too far. You will be able to vote for your favorite on the ballot you received when you came in. Vote for only one, and we will, at the end of tonight, by awarding a gold medal. Following Sunday's show, we will announce the overall favorite and present a grand prize. Now I'm supposed to say sit back and relax, and but the seats don't tilt back, and if you relax and start to snore, the ushers will have to wake you. So turn off your cell phones and enjoy the show. Your 2 o'clock appointment is here.
Thank you, Tilly. Please send them in. Come in.
Good morning. My name is Franklin, and I'm here to interview for the open printer's assistant position. I understand your newspaper has a vacancy.
Yes, come in. Please have a seat.
Thank you. You are Miss...
I am Miss Lily White Brown Garcia, Director of Human Resources, Public Relations, and Governmental Ethical Compliance. I'm also the chair of the corporation's Board of Community Coalitions and Subcultural Heritage Preservation. I am also the head of the Departmental Council for Better Urban Understanding and Foreign Friendships.
Well, I'm sorry, but what does all that translate to?
A little over $92,000 a year, plus benefits. Now then, I have your cover letter with your full resume and our proprietary 30-page employment application, all of the mandatory federal and state tax forms. So it's just a few questions for the primary interview form.
Well, of course, but I don't know that I can tell you anymore. I had to list my home address 3 times, my social security number 4 times, and give at least 4 references, and my work history for the last 10 years. The online application asked me about my criminal history, veteran status, bankruptcies, hobbies, associations, and contact informations, and my previous drug use. I was directed to another site where I had to do an 80-question character test, and when I finished, I was directed to a government website where I had to describe my age, race, sex, and whether I had been receiving any sort of government benefits, all before my website would even allow me to submit my application.
Yes, well, we do have to cover the basics. Now, before we begin, I will need to know your personal preferences, personal pronouns.
My what?
Your personal pronouns. How do you identify yourself sexually? Male, female, other?
Well, I have male genitalia.
That doesn't matter anymore.
Well, it matters to me. Let's just go with male.
Right. Now then, your education. You didn't graduate from college?
No, I was homeschooled for a bit and then self-taught. I did, however, help found the University of Pennsylvania, and I hold honorary degrees from the University of St. Andrews and Oxford University.
Well, that's not really the same thing now, is it, Mr. Franklin? Mr. Franklin. I mean, there's no transcript to be requested, no GPA to ask for, and no crushing student loans to keep you addicted to that regular paycheck, is there? As to experience, well, it says here you've worked as a printer before. Who was your previous employer?
The Pennsylvania Gazette. It was one time one of the most respected newspapers in the country.
Very nice. Your job title and the name of your supervisor?
Well, you see, I was the publisher.
Well, that could be a problem. You see how it is. There's no one to call and no one to ask for a completely arbitrary assessment of your abilities and work ethics. I mean, without a proper job title and description made up by your last employer, how will we know if you are a fit for our made-up job title and description?
So you need to be able to ask someone you've never met, who may well resent me for leaving his employee, to vouch for me as a worker, so that you can attempt to predict my future performance in a job that may not even require the same skill sets.
Mr. Franklin, Mr. Franklin, I think you're reading far too much into this. Well, of course, we would never base any employment decision on the word of a former employer. In fact, the only information that they can legally provide is the dates of your employment and whether or not they rehire you. It's simple, you see.
But if you don't use the information as part of the process, why do you bother to even contact former employers in the first place?
We don't.
I'm sorry?
In my time here, we have never contacted a former employer of a new hire.
Pardon?
Well, I mean, you must understand, Mr. Franklin, because of our constant turnover and continued restructuring, we hire scores of new people every year. We can't afford to expend the amount of people power that it would take to contact everyone's former employer just to ask them about dates of employment. You see what I'm saying, don't you?
Then, ma'am, why do you bother to ask?
There's a spot on the form for the information, and all forms must be filled out uniformly. That is the purpose of a form. Besides, it's important for record keeping. I mean, what if our corporate headquarters requested an audit?
Well, does that happen often?
No, not since I've been here, and I've never heard of one before that, but you must be prepared for these kind of things.
Oh.
All right, Mr. Franklin? Mr. Franklin, the next step is for you to make an appointment for a drug test with one of our providers. Get a release form signed by a doctor saying that you're fit to work, and then we can do your background check and set up for a polygraph. And of course, I need you to sign this form that says that we in no way promise to hire you. But if we do, you will have a 90-day probationary period during which you will not receive any benefits.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Brown.
I'm sorry, you're not interested in the position, Mr. Franklin?
No, ma'am. I think it's time I went back into business for myself. I think perhaps I'll contact some of my old friends, George and Thomas, and see if they can come up with something a bit less, insane.
Unbelievable. Nobody in this country wants to work. I don't get it. I don't understand. Willie, when is my next appointment?
You have Mr. Johannes Guttenberg at 3:30.
Johannes Guttenberg. Thank you. Sounds like another privileged white male. I wonder what he knows about printing. Whatever. Back to my cats at TikTok. Oh, it's a pretty kitty. You're a pretty kitty.
Thank you. That was History, HR, or History's Resources.